Wireless used to be considered the insecure access medium, but it has long been joked in tech circles that the wireless network is far more security conscious than the wired network. For years, we've been talking about wireless and wired networks coming together under a single unified policy, but getting there hasn't been so easy. In some cases, similar but still independent policies are individually applied to the wireless and wired networks. This typically means configuration on a lot of separate devices. In other cases, a unified policy means deploying a costly overlay network with many moving parts. These solutions rely on complex topologies and unfamiliar protocols. In Aruba's case, the answer is clear. Centralize the enforcement point and treat wired devices the same way we've always treated wireless devices. Aruba created dynamic segmentation to do exactly that. With dynamic segmentation, wireless and wired traffic is tunneled to a mobility controller. A unified wireless and wired access policy is created by leveraging the advanced firewall capabilities of the mobility controller. A wired port essentially becomes a wired AP, where wired users and ports can inherit the same attributes as their wireless counterparts. Centralizing policy control on a mobility controller creates a single source of truth for every user's network policy. It also minimizes configuration time and helps us deal with insecure IoT devices. Tunneling traffic to a controller allows you to define a centralized policy without regard to the underlying network or topology. Dynamic segmentation supports two different kinds of tunneling, port-based and user-based. Port-based tunneling tunnels all traffic from a configured Aruba switch port to a controller. Role-based tunneling tunnels all traffic to the controller on a user role or device basis. Network segmentation is achieved by correlating users or ports to rules, which are enforced by the controller's embedded firewall. Dynamic segmentation really consists of two major components: the ability to assign roles and policies based on things like user context or access method, and the ability to segment the network based on these roles and policies. Dynamic segmentation utilizes the concept of a user role, which contains user access policies. A user role can contain things like access lists or QoS, captive portal, and VLAN policies. User roles can be inherited from a radius server like ClearPass, or can be a static downloadable user role. After a user role is applied, traffic is tunneled to the controller for processing and policy enforcement. Network access rights are defined by the configurations applied to this user role. Roles are dynamic, so they can change as user state changes, in turn augmenting network access rights. This allows you to create a highly secure, zero-trust network that can adapt to environmental variables. Dynamic roles also follow a user regardless of where they go or which device they use to connect to the network. Unfortunately, network security is complicated by the need to secure the influx of IoT devices. These pesky devices are often headless and don't have a means to authenticate the same way a laptop or mobile device does. Roles need to be assigned in a different way. Fortunately, we can leverage MAC authentication for this purpose. MAC authentication allows us to assign roles to headless devices and apply network policies, mitigating the risk that they typically pose to the network. It sounds involved, but dynamic segmentation is actually quite easy to implement. Tunnels for wired devices can be up and running in about 1 hour. Dynamic segmentation can be done today with your existing topology. It leverages your existing skill set with familiar protocols and technologies. Dynamic segmentation doesn't have to be applied to the entire network either. It can be applied to a network segment or a subset of users and devices. The beautiful thing is you don't need your entire network to be comprised of Aruba devices to take advantage of dynamic segmentation. The simplest configuration consists of a single Aruba switch and a single Aruba mobility controller. Dynamic segmentation allows network security to be comprehensive without being overly complicated. Implementations can be as large or as small as your network requires. Dynamic segmentation creates a unified wired and wireless policy by leveraging a single source of truth, the mobility controller. Its adaptability and ease of implementation means you can start securing users, devices, and IoT devices with dynamic segmentation today.